Let's go Ravens! The atmosphere is hot behind the scenes, and I confess that I'm anxious for the season to start. The Baltimore Ravens have everything to go to the Super Bowl, and I wish from the bottom of my heart that this becomes a reality. If you are a true Ravens fan and believe that we will go to Super Bowl 60, hit that like button hard. If possible, comment like this: Go Ravens! I believe! The Baltimore Ravens may be sitting on some hidden gems at the safety position, players no one is really talking about but who could end up playing key roles in 2025 if the chips fall a certain way. We already know that Kyle Hamilton isn't going anywhere. Whether it's via his fifth-year option, a long-term extension, or both, he's locked in as a key piece of this defense. But opposite him, that's where things get interesting. Right now, Darius Washington occupies that position, but his future isn't exactly secure. He's essentially on a one-year deal with no long-term commitment from the team. If another team signs him to an offer sheet and Baltimore decides not to match it, he could walk away without the Ravens receiving any compensation. That window to make a move closes on April 18th, just 1 week before the draft, so we'll know more soon. But if he does walk, who steps up? This is where things get intriguing, because while fans and analysts are focused on names like Malaki Starks or Cameron Kinchens in the draft, there are a couple of players already in-house that might be flying way under the radar. Bo Braid and Sanusi Kane aren't household names, not yet, but they're already on the roster and could be poised to make an unexpected leap. Let's start with Bo Braid. You might be thinking, Bo Braid? Really? But think back to that final preseason game against the Packers. Eric DeCosta himself went down to Braid after the game and told him to call his family. He had made the team. That's not something the GM does for just any player. That moment tells you how much the front office sees in him. Bo didn't get many opportunities in year one, but this feels a lot like the Darius Washington story. Remember, Washington wasn't drafted either. He had to grind for every opportunity, and over time, he earned his shot. Could Braid follow a similar trajectory? Absolutely. Then there's Sanusi Kane. He was actually drafted late in the process, but he's already shown some flashes that are hard to ignore. Kane is a thumper, the kind of safety that reminds you of guys like Bernard Pollard or Cam Chancellor. He plays downhill, isn't afraid of contact, and brings that old-school physicality that the Ravens secondary has been missing. In fact, he hit someone so hard last year that he injured himself in the process. But he bounced back, and that moment just further proved his fearless style of play. So could either Braid or Kane emerge as a viable option next to Kyle Hamilton? Don't rule it out, especially considering how cost-effective it would be to elevate someone already on the roster versus spending a first-round pick at safety. There's always the chance the Ravens go big and try to land someone like Starks or even Xavier Watts, a ball hawk from Notre Dame who already has chemistry with Hamilton. Watts posted 13 interceptions in just 2 years, and his 6 picks and 82 tackles in 2024 earned him All-American honors. He's 6 feet 0 inches, runs a 4.49, and has that playmaker instinct this defense hasn't had consistently at free safety since Earl Thomas, before that went sideways. But again, you don't always need a first-round pick to find a difference maker. This team has a history of finding value late in the draft or even in undrafted free agents. Darius Washington, Patrick McCurry, Gus Edwards. These weren't big-name prospects, but they earned their stripes in Baltimore. Bo Braid and Sanusi Kane could be next. Now, moving from safety to offensive line, there's another name worth keeping an eye on, Corey Bullock. This guy went undrafted, but in the preseason, he held his own. And in a year where the Ravens might look to shuffle things up on the interior O-line, Bullock could sneak into that competition. The Ravens haven't always prioritized the offensive line as much as they should, partly because Lamar Jackson can turn broken plays into highlights. But they've got depth, and a guy like Bullock, who showed promise, could be a dark horse to watch. There's this perception that Baltimore can get away with less than elite offensive line play because of Lamar's mobility. And sure, that's been true to an extent, but you also can't keep relying on your quarterback to cover up holes. The O-line needs to hold up, especially against the kind of pass rushes you face in the playoffs. And speaking of overlooked players, let's not forget about the pass rush. James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee is a name that's starting to buzz. At 6 feet 5 inches, 243 pounds, and running a 4.47, the guy is a freak. If Baltimore looks to add juice off the edge, he could be on their radar. There's also been some talk about Trayvon Walker from the Jaguars. He's been a bit underwhelming for a number 1 overall pick, but a change of scenery and a Ravens coaching staff known for maximizing defensive talent, that might be the reset he needs. If the Ravens feel like Odefoa, who's entering a contract year, isn't the long-term answer, maybe they make a move there. But for now, it seems they're betting on Oa stepping up, knowing a big payday could be right around the corner if he produces. Now, let's go big picture for a second. Some fans have wondered if the Ravens front office has truly built around Lamar Jackson the way teams like the Eagles have done for Jalen Hurts, or the Lions for Jared Goff. But if you look at the last 2 years, Eric DeCosta has absolutely put together rosters capable of winning a Super Bowl. Injuries, execution, and some tough playoff losses have held them back, not the roster itself. The 2023 and 2024 teams were legitimate contenders. That said, there's still room for improvement. The offense needs to be more dynamic in the postseason. The defense needs to create more turnovers in crunch time. And yes, the Ravens could benefit from more ball hawks in the secondary. That's why a guy like Xavier Watts, or even just unlocking the full potential of Kyle Hamilton again, could be so critical. But now I want to hear from you. Could Bo Braid or Sanusi Kane really be part of the answer at safety? Is there an under-the-radar player you think could have a breakout year? And what moves do you think the Ravens need to make this offseason to finally get over the hump? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep this momentum rolling, because there's more to unpack when it comes to the Ravens roster construction and the kind of calculated risks that could shape the 2025 season. One topic that always stirs up debate is the tight end situation. We all know Mark Andrews is a cornerstone of the offense, but with Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kolar both waiting in the wings, and all three tight ends heading into contract years, it's fair to ask, could the Ravens shake things up at tight end? This isn't to say Andrews isn't valued, but if Baltimore wanted to make a splash in the draft or via trade, packaging Andrews could theoretically bring back serious value. Think moving up in the draft to secure a future cornerstone player, like Malachi Starks or another elite defensive talent. That's the kind of bold move that would raise eyebrows but might just make sense strategically. If Andrews were moved, purely hypothetical, it would unlock more opportunities for Isaiah Likely, who's shown flashes of being a dynamic playmaker himself. And let's not forget, the Ravens' offense has shifted under Todd Monken. We've seen more wide receiver involvement and spacing, which could reduce the reliance on multiple tight end sets. It's not a likely scenario, but it's one that at least has to be considered when you talk about valuable trade chips. Now back to the pass rush, because honestly, this is an area that could make or break the Ravens' chances in 2025. Yes, Justin Matterback had a breakout year. Yes, Kyle Van Noy brought that veteran presence. But this group still feels like it needs one more consistent threat off the edge. That's why someone like James Pierce Jr. or even Mike Green, despite his off-field concerns, could become intriguing options. Green is a physical monster, a freak athlete, and exactly the kind of high-risk, high-reward edge defender that the Ravens have been willing to take chances on before. So much of what happens this offseason hinges on how the Ravens approach the draft. If they stick at 27, they'll likely be looking at either a cornerback, a safety, or an edge rusher, maybe a surprise pick if someone they love falls. But if they decide to move up, that's when it gets really interesting. Trading Mark Andrews or other future assets to climb into the teens could give them access to blue-chip defenders who can make an immediate impact. It's bold. But if Baltimore is serious about maximizing this championship window, bold might be exactly what they need. And I want to hear from you again. Do you think the Ravens should make a big trade to move up in the draft? Should they roll with their in-house talent like Braid and Kane? What would you do if you were Eric DeCosta right now? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's keep this conversation going. This offseason is just heating up, and the decisions made in the next few weeks could define the entire trajectory of the 2025 Baltimore Ravens.